A troupe of musicians playing at the banquet of the prefect. Instruments and all, they appeared out of thin air before the wine tables of another house entirely. The man behind it was a freeloader, and a strange one. He called himself Layman Yang. No one knew his real name. No one knew where he came from. It was the early years of the reign called Kaiton. He came to the prefecture of Nanhai in a worn cloth robe with a small boy in tow, cadging meals wherever he went. He looked like any idler in the market. But he had a boast ready for every stranger he met.
I have an art, you clowns. Come, men like you would never know it.
The whole city took him for a joke, until that one night. When Layman Yang first came to Nanhai, it was spring. He ate at other tables and slept under other roofs, and never once lowered his voice. He knocked on any door. He sat down at any feast. And when he had eaten, he wiped his mouth and left, as though he had done the host a favor. Asked what gave him the right, he answered, without a blink, I have an art. As for what that art was, he would never show it. The boy who had followed him for years had worked out one strange rule of his master. In every new place, the art stays hidden. And once it was shown, they would be on the road by the next morning, so the bundle of the boy stayed packed all year round. The prefect of Nanhai was a famously curious man. Hearing that such a figure had turned up, he was not offended at all. He sent an invitation instead. They talked through one long sitting, and the prefect was startled. This freeloader in plain cloth spoke of the mountains and rivers of the empire with every detail at his fingertips. The plank roads of the southwest, the sand winds of the western passes, the tides of the lower Yangtze. He could name the small things in each of them, as though he had walked every one of them himself. The prefect wondered privately. An ordinary man could spend a whole life and never cover the places this one named in passing. Won over, he gave the man robes and a horse on the spot and treated him as an honored guest. From then on, at every banquet, Layman Yang was the first man invited. A hall full of officials and gentry had to yield the high seat to a guest in plain cloth. For half his life he had never been honored like this. He stayed on for half a year, and for the first time ever, he did not move along. The boy asked him,
Master, are we leaving this time?
Now this place is worth staying for.
It was the wine that ruined it. At a summer banquet, with the music at its height in the hall full of guests, he drank more than he should have. Warmed by the wine, the prefect put a question to him in front of everyone, half in jest.
So then, the famous art of the master, we must ensure the whole hall something worth seeing.
It was meant as flattery. Everyone waited for a graceful answer. Instead, the man lifted his drunken eyes, looked round at all the players in the hall, and laughed, cold.
This little show of singing and dancing, and you think it deserves my art?
The hall went silent at once. The music of the singers broke off halfway through. The face of the prefect went red, then white. In the end, he shook out his sleeves and ended the feast. From that day on, there was no seat for Layman Yang at any gathering in the prefecture. In autumn, the prefect held a great banquet at his residence. Everyone of standing in the city came. The music ran all night. But no invitation ever reached Layman Yang. That evening he sat in a small courtyard in the ward, drinking with a few other men who had not been invited either, 2 streets away. The music came drifting over in waves. One of the guests, half drunk, looked at him sideways and smiled.
We have all heard how the master values that art of his. Great admirers, every one of us. But tonight, the prefect feasts the whole city, and the master cannot even get through the door, unless this art was only ever talk.
The whole courtyard laughed. He did not. He held his cup and said nothing for a long moment. Across the street, the music was still playing. It was the very music he used to hear from the high seat. He thought of the past half year, a horse to ride, a high seat to sit in, and everywhere he went, men calling him master politely. For one stretch of his life, he had been settled. Behind him, the boy tugged quietly at his sleeve. He knew that small tug too well. It meant one thing. Master, hold it in, and we can stay. He lifted the hand of the boy away, gently. Then he spoke.
A trifle like this, and you gentlemen use it to niddle me. You want some sing and dancing? Very well. For the music troupe of the Prefect, I will borrow them.
He had the wine tables laid out and the guests seated in a ring. Then he told the boy to shut the door of the empty room in the west wing. Now the lamps burned high in the courtyard. Every man held his breath and watched that door. About the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, he raised his hand.
Open it.
The door swung wide, and first came a light ringing of jade pendants. Then 3 or 4 beauties came out of the room, one after another. Every one of them in full dress, hairpins catching the light, holding lutes and pipes and flutes, not a hair out of place, as though they had simply stepped from behind a curtain and walked across to this courtyard. And not out of a locked and empty room. One sharp-eyed guest recognized them. His voice was shaking.
But that troupe belongs to the Prefect!
The guests sprang up from their seats. One of them let go of his cup, and it smashed on the ground. That room they had watched the boy lock only moments before. 4 solid walls. Not even a mouse could get in. The face of Layman Yang did not change. He only said,
Gentlemen, did you not want music?
The players sat down in a row, tuned their strings, and began. The singing was as fine as anything heard at the prefectural hall. One guest worked up the courage to ask what art this was. The man only smiled, said nothing, and went on drinking. He drank a great deal that night, and said very little. No one noticed how he watched the music and the dancing. It was not the look of a man enjoying his triumph. It was the look of a man saying goodbye. At midnight, he set down his cup and spoke to the players.
You may go back now.
The women rose, straightened their robes, and walked one by one into the empty west wing. The door closed. When it was pushed open again, the room was bare, only lamplight inside. The guests looked at one another with cold sweat down their backs, half believing they had met a ghost that night. The next day, word from the prefectural hall ran through the whole city. At the banquet the night before, with the music at its height, every player in the hall had fallen at once and could not be woken. In an instant, a violent wind rose in the courtyard and swept every instrument away, without a trace. The prefect was appalled. He called in every physician he could find. Nothing would wake them. Not until midnight did the players slowly come round. The instruments were back in their places too, though no one saw it happen. Even the dust on the strings lay undisturbed. Questioned one by one, the women all said the same thing.
Everything went dark after that. I knew nothing.
The story spread. The whole city was talking. They said the prefectural hall had been haunted. The guests from the courtyard that night compared the hours and understood at last where their music had come from. Every one of them was horrified. Someone went straight to the hall and reported what had happened. The prefect heard it out and sat alone for half a day. He did not rage. He gave no order for an arrest. Early the next morning, he prepared a generous gift and sent a messenger to the door. The words were courteous. The meaning was plain.
The art of the master reaches heaven itself. Even a small domain cannot keep such a guest. We ask you to seek a greater house.
The reasoning was not hard to follow. A man who can take people and things from 100 paces away, unseen, staying on in the prefecture. How was the prefect ever to sleep soundly again? By the time the messenger arrived, the bundle was already packed, not in haste. The boy had done it quietly the night before. The child had followed him for years and knew better than anyone where that rule came from. The place can never be lived in again. He took the gift, argued not one word, and led the boy out of the city. At the gate, the boy asked,
Master, where do we go this time?
He looked down the road and gave 4 words in answer.
I do not know.
After that, the two of them were seen now and then across the prefectures of the far south, living off other men, never staying anywhere long. He still told everyone he had an art. Still no one believed him, and the ones who did believe, all wished him gone as soon as possible. His art could move people and things through locked gates and deep courtyards faster than the wind. But there was only one place he truly wanted to reach in this life, a seat he need not beg for. That night he moved a whole hall of music across the city, and he moved himself out of Nanhai forever. Today, physicists in their laboratories are still chasing an art of their own. They call it quantum teleportation, the state of a single photon appearing in an instant 1,000 miles away. And on that Tang-dynasty night in the story, a whole performance of music and dancing had already crossed silently between 2 courtyards, teleported entire. Subscribe to Young Decodes for more untold legends.